So here we are headed toward the 3 big switchbacks that go up a mile. Here's the Trail Magic from the Pinhoti Outdoor Center. Great advertising, as well as the fact that they're great folks. I believe this is Bull's Bluff, or right here at it, a mile into the trip. But here we are coming out of our last switchback at the top of the mountain. Hurricane Zeta, I bet it made this an almost impassable way about 4 months ago, just like it did the sections near the Georgia line. Thank goodness they cleared it. It takes a little getting used to see the hardwoods with no leaves on them. This is the first power line, a little over 2 miles, and it gives you a great view. You know, all these people in the whole world have gone through a lot of stress last year. Some of it unnecessary, some of it necessary. Always great to come back to the trail, winter, summer, spring, or fall, and it's just waiting on you to test you. It doesn't matter what you're like, you have to adapt to it, and that's why I love it, to just walk and think. People ask me why I do this by myself, mainly because there's nobody that I know of to go with me that has the time. But also, I've learned to like solitude. I did not like it as a child, and I have become much better at it. The solitude of the trail and the wind in the pines. The Pinhoti is a lonesome trail, however. It is nice to see somebody occasionally, and you can go days on the Pinhoti without seeing a soul, especially in February. We saw one car parked at Adams Gap where I left my car, or my truck. So here the trail crosses Forest Service 500, the Civilian Construction Corps Skyway Motorway. It's 4:26 and I've made about 3.5 miles, so I'm pretty happy, as I'm headed for a campsite of any kind before dark. Winter views are pretty good. At the 5.5 mile marker, I have made about 2.6 moving miles per hour. The trail is so clean. The people that maintain it, there aren't even sticks in it. The temperature is about 65. Well, sunset on the Pinhoti, and I'm about 1/2 mile from a campsite. So we'll just keep going. A lot of switchbacks here as we come off a little ridge. I am not into night hiking. Some people are, but I am not. Well, I made it. Just in the nick of time. It's dark enough, but I could still see the trail. I didn't turn on the light. So this is where I spent the night after walking here in the dark. And right up there on that hill was another camper, and I didn't even see him, but he walked down here this morning and spoke to me and took off. I got out of bed at 6, and he was earlier than that. So I took the time here to shed my outer layer of clothes. It's already hot. It's 7:41, so I've been hiking 30 minutes and I'm already sweating. So we're getting ready for switchbacks through a valley to the next little mountain. This is the 9.7 mile mark according to my GPS. If you go up that little trail, which ends in a thicket On the left is the fire tower and the CCC camp. It's possibly worth a look if you have an hour. In the summer, getting up there is terrible. I think you can walk right up this hill though today in the winter, and there starts to be picnic tables right there in the woods, about a quarter mile or eighth of a mile, maybe even less than a quarter up the hill. And right on top of that hill is the fire tower. So here we are approaching Sunset Rock, and there's a car up there. There's often locals camping at this place. It's a very popular spot. This place is so popular it even has a trash can, which is a really good deal. And the trash can's brand new and full of trash, so that's where the trash needs to go. So here's the rock, and it's one of the best views for sure on section 4. Microwave tower is clearly visible in the wintertime. In the summer you have to look for it until you get right upon it. After this little stretch of road, the trail goes back into the woods and has all kinds of switchbacks down to the lake. So here we go, down, 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 switchback after switchback. This 14-mile marker that I just showed means that on the right, the lake will be there, and then the 2 streams. And so it's 14 miles to reliable water, they say, but it's actually just a little bit more than 14. And this water is very reliable. The forest is definitely different in the winter, with the hardwood trees not having put out any leaves yet. In the lower elevations, they're beginning to bud just a little bit, especially the smaller shrubs, but up here, it's still winter as far as these trees are concerned. But if we have many more days that are 70 degrees like this one's going to be, it will be not long before spring. Spring's on this mountain. There's the first view of the lake, and if you listen closely, you can hear the frogs as spring comes to this valley. So here we get to the stream after crossing around the lake. From here to the Georgia line, the Pinhoti has a number of lakes. You could almost camp lake to lake if you wanted to. Great campsite. Somebody even left you some wood at the firing. Here's the crossing. Wish me luck. That's what's good about boots. You can step in the water, but if I get in a hurry, I'll fall in the water, which is totally possible. 2 or 3 more steps and I'm across. There's the cascade, which is the spillway from the lake. And here is Dry Creek, which is anything but. But it does have some rocks. Well, there we go, I made it. Lowest point on the Pinhoti. So there's the lake on this side. The trail is up there on that hill. It follows that ridge around. And here the trail crosses turns to the right and goes back into the woods. Notice the yellow pipe. When you start seeing these yellow culverts, you know there's water, and you know you're about a mile from Highway 77. This is Porter's Gap, which starts section 5. Here's the start of the trailhead. This is the view from the first rocky top, so called. There's a number of them all the way to the Georgia line. They've blazed the trail with blue flags, which really help where there's nowhere to paint, especially up here. This is the Chandler Springs area, where there used to be a couple that ran a campground for very cheap that catered to hikers, they are out of business. And it'd be hard to miss a trail here. We have that. We have this Forest Service marker. And if that isn't enough, we have one of the blue flags. So you go over this bridge and go to the left and crawl down to the creek, and you can get all the water you need. If you go to the right, you might get arrested. And the trail goes straight ahead, up the road and then into the woods. Probably don't need to go right, so I'll go left. And right down here is a little landing at the creek to get water. All that smoke is a fire. Pretty good ways away, but I sure hope it's a controlled burn. And my second hope is there's rivers and creeks between it and me. It is really hot for February. I'm getting stinging sweat in my eyes. And, well, it looked like the smoke was a long way away, but now it looks like I've hiked close to it. So we're almost to the rock garden, and here's some water. This little spring looks actually pretty reliable. And so there's actually some water on section 5. Except maybe in August, and if you come here in August, then you probably get what you deserve. So we're coming upon the rock garden. I was hoping and still hope that I'll find a fire ring before I get in it completely. And then I would spend the night, and then I would go through it in the morning. Well, that's confusing. Somebody got flag happy. There's a flag way up there. But there's a blaze right over here and a clear trail, so I hope I'm not supposed to go some other way. Looks like there might be 2 Pinhotis. I'm kidding. This is the right one. I don't know what all that flagging was. This is really fun if you can find the blazes. Walking through movable rocks. The rock garden gets easier after the initial 100-yard fun, where there's one blaze and then the next blaze is on a rock that you can't see upstream from the way you would expect. Anyway, after blumbling around for 5 or 10 minutes, I found it. Uh-oh, round 2. Every time I think this thing is over, there's another section. Well, I find myself hiking in the near dark again, looking for a flat spot. Believe it or not, for the last 3 miles there hadn't been one. So I walked until dark, got in this switchback, and said I'm not going to take another step. And I ended up spending the night in the trail. This first mountain on this side of Claremont Gap has a very steep switchbacks to get to the top. Once you finally get to the top, it's flat cruising. Even though we're way past the rock garden, this trail is still really rocky. Notice how they piled the trail maintenance people have piled the rocks to the left of this trail. But there are a lot of places where they're still in the trail. This good campsite is less than a mile from Adams Gap, and there's more campsites right down the hill. This is a long last section, complete with a few rocks just to add to the excitement. If you can make it this far and you've got the water, here's a real flat campground right as you come to the start of Adams Gap. Well, as we come to the Adams Gap Trailhead, officially with the sign, we had about 100 yards of rocks just to end the day. And here we are. And my old truck, if it's still there, is going to look pretty good. Yep, there she is. And so thus ends sections 4 and 5.